Joining us from Los Angeles, emergency room specialist Dr. Anthony Cardillo, and also in Dallas, Texas, lifestyle and sports analyst Eric Mitchell. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, to you, Doctor. Obviously, people look at this very shocking video and they see a tackle and then they see a player falling to the floor. What do you think happened there without having direct access?
Yeah, well, after analyzing this video, it does appear that he had this acute chest trauma. When you first look at the video and you see a player falling down, your immediate thoughts are, was there any cervical spinal injury, any head trauma? But this clearly looks as though it was an anterior chest trauma. And then we're finding out that he did go into cardiac arrest. There are very few things that can put you into cardiac arrest after acute chest trauma. This phenomenon known as commotiocardia. This is a post-traumatic, post-anterior chest trauma that happens at a very specific moment when the heart is getting ready to beat again. If you look at an EKG, you can imagine what happens when the heart is depolarizing and then repolarizing. If you get hit at a very exact moment, it's within milliseconds. That's when the heart goes into we'll call it ventricular fibrillation. Remember, normally the heart is beating like this, then it starts fibrillating. That's when you're in cardiac arrest. I will tell you, a lot of us were looking at that video very carefully to identify what was going on, but now we're hearing the reports that he was pulseless, he was in cardiac arrest, and that pretty much kind of confirms what had happened here.
And doctor, in a situation like that, obviously the speed at which somebody can be administered CPR is essential. I think we understand that CPR was administered for around 9 minutes, and then now we have it confirmed that his heartbeat was restored on the pitch. What does that make you think of immediately? Are you concerned about him being deprived of oxygen or further damage? Obviously, it's very difficult and we don't want to speculate, but what would your primary concerns be?
The primary concern is the length of time that he was not having cardiac activity. Now, it sounds as though CPR was administered immediately. You can't get much faster than what happened. That medical professional team was there, prepared, and ready to administer care. So the first thing was the initiation of CPR, and that was starting to circulate the blood as that heart was fibrillating. The next important thing, and the most critical, was the defibrillation, the shocking of that heart with the automated external defibrillator. It sounds like that was done there on the field, and that's when the pulse was restored. Once the electrical activity in that heart was regained and restored, that's when he got a pulse again. It's really going to be a matter of time. How long was he down? You know, every second counts. It's no different than when a child falls in the pool. 1 minute versus 2 minutes versus 3 minutes. These are critical time junctures, and every second is going to count for how long he was deprived of oxygen and had brain anoxia. What's going to happen now in the hospital setting is obviously he's been stabilized. It sounds like he has a normal pulse now. That's great news. He's intubated, meaning they are breathing for him, and we do that just to restore and maintain his ability to breathe, but also to control his physiology. They will slowly start pulling back on that ventilator in the next 12 to 24 hours. That will be critical in determining whether he's breathing on his own, whether he's breathing over the ventilator. That will be vitally important to see how much damage his brain did suffer while he was in cardiac arrest. When you're in cardiac arrest, remember, there's no blood circulating to the organs in your body. That's why it's essential to start CPR emergently and then also to use the AED. So time is going to be very important here. We know it's anywhere from 1 minute to 10 minutes, roughly, that he was deprived. We don't know when he was shocked. That's going to be critical. But really, it's up to his own body. How is he going to respond? We know that he's a young, 24, healthy, conditioned athlete. He's in the greatest possible situation to come back to a normal life at this point. But our prayers are with him to make sure he does recover like that.
Absolutely. And Eric, obviously the medical response seems very impressive. What do you make of the NFL response? Because there's some criticism that the game wasn't suspended right away.
It's hard to judge, right? This has never happened before in the NFL. We've had severe injuries on the field, but nothing like what we saw. Like the doctor was saying, Damar fell to the turf and all of a sudden, almost immediately, you could see a Buffalo Bills player just waving for medical attention. You don't see that with most injuries. And just a few short weeks ago on the same very field, Tua was knocked out on the field and was rushed off the field, but we didn't even get the same reaction. It was different. Now, the NFL had to deal with what they were going to do. It has come out that this 5 minutes that everyone's been reporting and even was shared on TV wasn't exactly what that was miscommunication, according to the NFL. They left it up to the coaches and the players. It was very obvious at each time that the Monday Night Football team came back onto TV. Those of us sitting on our couch watching in disbelief, you could just look at these players' faces. Look at Joey Burrow. Look at Josh Allen. Look at Stephon Diggs. Look at these guys. They were not going to play a football game. It took a little bit longer than I thought it would. I mean, going almost 45 minutes before we said, hey, we're not going to play a football game. Because once they put those cameras on there was 0% chance that they were going to play on the field. And I actually don't think they're going to redo this game. And it doesn't really matter. At this point, all we care, and this is the only thing that matters, is that a human being can recover from this. I'm just happy he's alive, because that was a scary moment when they're performing CPR on an NFL football field on Monday Night Football. That's scary stuff. And we all saw the reaction. And I think it showed us how human these NFL football players are, that we're all united. We're all human. And you look at that crowd and the way that the faces, and I mean, the Bengal fans and the Bengal players, I mean, they're standing in front of the hospital right now having a candlelight vigil. What does that say about how this isn't this gigantic competition? It comes down to that's a human life, and everybody's praying for Damar.
And Eric, we're seeing these physical displays of solidarity and unity, stadiums being lit up in the Bengals and the Bills colors. What can you tell us about the response that we're hearing from sportsmen, NFL players, and the athletic community at large?
Well, the players I work with, we were instantly on the phone texting each other back and forth. Their hearts and prayers go out. I mean, they're all combatants on this field of the NFL. They go hard on this field. They see injuries. It's a violent sport, right? Let's just face it. But you see it. I mean, tonight, Donovan Mitchell, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who plays in the NBA, scored 71 points. He made sure at the end of his press conference to mention thoughts and prayers. Klay Thompson hit a buzzer beater tonight. Same thing. You saw LeBron James. You're seeing players, J.J. Watt and his brother T.J. Watt, the University of Pittsburgh, where Damar went to school. You're seeing it from teams. Whole teams are doing whatever they can to support. And I guess he has a GoFundMe or I'm probably saying it wrong, but he has a charity that went from a very low amount of money to a couple $1 million has been donated since this injury. It's just amazing the response, how everybody, sports and folks that don't normally watch sports, have been just drawn into this story. And it's actually united let's just face it, we're a little divided here in the States, and it's really united everyone.
Okay, Eric Mitchell in Dallas, thank you. Also, Dr. Anthony Cardillo in Los Angeles.